We have our first Trio Cash Cup finals of the season. We finally get to see Pete and Acorn go head to head. However, Acorn is contested. I want to go through who's dropping where, who my predictions are to do well on both regions. I want to talk about what's going on with Mr. Savage and Mongrel. Both of them didn't make finals. Will they actually stick with their trios? And we have Simple Edit being enabled in tournaments, but Epic has told no one about it. There's a lot to talk about. Let's jump into it. I honestly don't know if I am surprised or not to be announcing this, but yes, Simple Edit is in competitive, and it didn't even get announced by Fortnite. I found out because Resub, I guess, just heard it was on or tried to turn on the settings and it just worked. There was no like announcement from Epic Games like, yo, you can now use it in tournaments. Just Resub made a tweet like, hey, I can use Simple Edit in tournaments, and then now you can, and a bunch of people are. It's super weird. I don't really know how to feel about this. There's two sides to it. Obviously, Simple Edit is really, really strong. I don't think it's better than just regular skill of editing, but I think for how little time you have to put into it, it is better for most players, or a lot of players anyway, especially those of you guys who are maybe considering switching from controller to mouse and keyboard. This might be the final sign that yes, you should do it, because you can get really good at editing really fast. I don't think you're going to get like as good as the top tier pros. Obviously, there's some limitations. You can't peek through your cones to check before you rotate. We've talked about all of this, but at the same time, for how incredibly fast it makes you with very little time spent on it, that is going to be an improvement for most people. And I do truly think that there's going to be some players who get so good on this that they overcome the limitations and it becomes somewhat of an advantage in certain scenarios. So we've talked about this with edit on release on versus off. I had a conversation with Peterbot about this of all people and asked him, why do you like edit on release on over off? You know, like you can't have as good peaks and you can't have crosshair control. And he said, you can overcome a lot of that, but he's like, speed is everything right now with how good the average player is getting. And also the fact that finals lobbies are getting a little bit laggy again. Sometimes taking a less optimal peak, but doing it as quick as possible is better. You catch your enemy off guard and you get the pump shot off anyway. So sometimes big wide edits that you're doing faster is actually potentially better these days. And that's why a lot of pros are switching to edit on release on. Now, Simple Edit is another step past that. Sometimes you can only do wide open edits in certain scenarios, but if you do it quick enough, which with Simple Edits, it's basically cheating how fast you do it. Like it's the speed of macros. It can be better. So I'm super interested to see if we see a lot of pros using this. We already have some pros using it. I was watching Rabbit, who is a Spanish pro who is playing on EU in the solo cash cup. He had it on. He was absolutely moving with it already. I'm guessing he's practiced with this in the past coming into it, because there's no way he was that good on it in the first tournament with it on. But I don't know. I mean, if you've been considering it, if you want to try and invest some time into it, I think it could be a good time. But it's worth mentioning, I'm guessing it's not a bug, but because Fortnite never announced anything, like, how do we know this wasn't a mistake and now they're going to turn it off tomorrow? I don't think they're going to, because it's now been in for every single cash cup, all of the regions, and Fortnite hasn't said or done anything, but maybe keep in mind they could potentially take it out again. I don't know. Before we talk about solos, we're going to talk about the Divisional Cups, look at the drop map, and who my predictions are to do well. Now, we have some spicy spawn fights on NA. The big one, the most notable one, Masked Meadows, Vidal, Cooper, Sphinx versus Acorn, Ages, and Ritual. Now, this is an insane one because Vidal, Cooper, and Sphinx said they were going to go to EU and play on EU, but they didn't end up doing it because they were too scared about losing their uncontested Masked Meadows on NA. Now, Vidal flies all the way to NA and they're being contested, and by none other than the other LAN qualified team. We only have one of two. We've got Peterbot's team. They're dropping Crime City. Obviously, Acorn, Ages, Ritual should technically be the other team least likely to be contested on the whole map, because they have less to lose than any other team. But I've spoken to Vidal, Cooper, and Sphinx about this. They've all said the same thing. Like, look, if we don't qual LAN this season because we locked down our drop spot, that's fine. We'll just do it next season. They can go and claim any other drop on the map. They took ours and we just came fourth last FNCS. We popped off. We've earned this drop spot. We're staying here and we're happy to fight over it, and we'll get the practice in anyway. So apparently Vidal, Cooper, and Sphinx have no plan on leaving, and Acorn, Ages, and Ritual said they're not leaving either. And I know there's been a lot of, focus around Acorn, Ages, Ritual's team about, not having enough fraggers. That's double IGL. They don't have the fighting power. Acorn just dropped a 30-something kill win today in the solo cash cup. Ritual came top 10 overall in the solos. Ages is Ages. Like, I don't think this team is a team that's just going to get pushed over off spawn. I also think that a lot of people now think that Acorn is not a good spawn fighter because when him and Cold got destroyed by Pete at Grim Gate, but Cold literally was level 1 going into that spawn fight. They didn't have a drop map. It was his first time playing the season. They weren't really locked in spawn fighting like that. Acorn and Cold have dominated FNCSs, won I think 2 of their FNCSs, well contested. So very, very good spawn fighting team. I'm interested to see how it plays out. I don't really know who's going to get the edge. I'm also noticing that every single team around them is uncontested. So unless they close that fight out quickly, they are going to get third party. Reed, Shadow, and Virgo off the mountain. Hound, Xander, and Yusuf to their left. Sigma, Cosmo, and Edward over at the black market. And then G Money, Vert, and Osid. Any of them will be happy to push in and close out and third party that fight and get the vault loot, the deal bids, everything else from that fight. So it's going to be a messy one. It's going to be fun to watch. I think it's also going to really mess up their timing and priority on the black market at the fields. Right now, when Acorn Age Ritual have been dropping this spot uncontested because the deal wasn't in NA yet, they've been looting that super quick and being like the first team into that black market. So it is worth pointing out the deal did only get into NA a few days ago, so him, Cooper, and Sphinx haven't played that much this season, but they did go this drop spot literally all last season, so they have a lot of experience. It's changed a little bit with the way the vault works now, but for the most part, it's very, very similar. So I'm excited to see how that spawn fight plays out. As far as my prediction for who will win, I actually don't know. I think they're going to go even. I could be completely wrong, but I do think both of them are going to do pretty terribly overall if the third party starts swarming. We'll see. Next up on our spawn fights, we have Bucky, Okus, and Craze versus Oliver, OG, Larson, and Liam over at Demon's Dojo and the drop beneath it. Now, OG's team tends to actually go on the south of Demon's Dojo and don't actually land on top of it. So it says they're contesting, but it depends on how either of these teams play it. There is a good chance Bucky's trio just lands on Dojo and gets the loot to the north. OG gets the split to the south, and they split and they go their own ways. I don't see them actually potentially 50-50 and fighting every game. Maybe if one of them starts to struggle, they could also look to try to third party and play into the fight between Blake and Cully's team over at this bridge. That would be very, very advantageous for Oliver, and I'm guessing Oliver's team probably won't need to try to encroach onto too much of Bucky's loot because they can go third party that fight, but we'll have to see. We've got a triple contestation for Brutal Boxcars. We have Quanti, Chance, and Edgy versus Havoc, Degen, and King, and Joji, Donnie, and Nerface. That's going to be a big fight. Again, center of the map, very, very easily third partyable. We'll see Soneto, Via Scare, even Clixiomzo Higgs will get a piece of that. I do think a lot of the time for the teams on the north is going to be spent trying to get into that Magic Moss's black market. I've talked about it a few times. This is our first time we're going to see Rapid, Bolts, and Yapko all on 0 ping at Flooded Frogs. I think they're going to potentially kind of mess up Clix's rotates in and out of the black market a little bit. I don't think they're going to straight up box fight them for it and try and fight for it every game and hold them in and grief them. I just think if Clixiomzo Higgs have any other fight in that area, maybe they slow down their rotate into the black market, maybe they're trying to get a reboot and go in. I just think having such a good fighting team nearby now all on 0 ping, playing more aggressive, could potentially mess up the very good run that Clixiomzo and Higgs have been having so far. We have another big spawn fight. Muzz, Rise, and Curly, who've been looking really, really solid out of Shiny Shafts, are being contested. They're very happy they're not on EU because this drop is being quadruple contested on EU. I'll talk about that in a little bit, but they're going up against Catman, Amplify, and Lawsies. Now, I think Muzz, Rise, and Curly are the better team here. I'm interested to see how it plays out, though, because Shiny Shafts with the north versus south, it's very, very hard to straight 50-50. If you're landing on the south and you have better drops, they can swerve off and go the north. They can drag the fight out. They can go into the mountain. It's going to be a little bit ugly potentially on how fast Muzz's team can close it out, or if Catman's team can maybe make them play over aggressive and overextend for this one. Now, this is the NA map. You might be confused because I'm about to talk about Cami, Seti, and Hari, the EU trio, the Polish boys, going up against Dolzier, Vortecker, and Aiden. I do like the Cami, Seti, Hari qualify on NA from EU, and they don't try to claim the best drop on the map. They know, yes, they've qualified. Yes, they're 3 phenomenal players, but they are playing at a large ping disadvantage. So they're going for Whiffy Wharf, which I think will be an interesting fight. I think Dolzier's team is going to have the fighting advantage here just with the ping advantage, but Cami, Seti, Hari are very, very scary. Hari has added a lot of firepower to this trio. We actually had Cami drop an almost 30 kill win today in the solo cash cup. So the storylines of, Cami, Seti being placement warriors, don't have the fighting power, can't get elims, is starting to die a little bit as well. Now, obviously, we have a lot of big teams uncontested. We have Cold, Peterbot, Poyo at Crime City. I think they are going to do extremely well in this tournament. I know there's been a lot of focus on Cold's not grinding, Cold's not this. I only noticed when Peterbot went live that Cold is actually higher level than Peterbot and Poyo. My man's been missing a couple of scrim sessions here and there, but he has been grinding way more than he normally does for these tournaments. So I'm super excited to see whether that can't, kind of gives them the edge to win out this first Cash Cup. They didn't do as well in the Eval Cup. That's what a lot of people were hoping, but I think in a regular Cash Cup where elims are worth so much, that is where we're going to see Cold, Peterbot, and Poyo shine. Aviv going uncontested Outlaw, very, very solid team to look out for. Canada, Threats, and Booga at Seaport been doing really, really well in scrims. They struggled on day one of the qualifiers, but really brought it back on day two. Canada didn't stream it. They locked in. They dominated. Clixiomzo Higgs, other favorite to do well. I'm into to see how that Bolts fight kind of goes towards the black market. Sineto and Diego plays teams have both been kind of the thorn in Clix's side when trying to go for that Magic Mosses black market. But the fact that none of the teams on the north here are contested will play very much in their favor, where hopefully the teams don't stall out and drag out the fight too much. And I do want to give a shout out to Reach, Shadow, and Virgo. They haven't got the best drop on the map right now, but I know how hard Reach's grinding on mouse and keyboard. First Cash Cup finals and he's qualified. I'm super excited to see whether he can pull off hopefully a respectable placement. Now, looking at the EU map, we have the quadruple contested shiny shafts. We have Shark, Chap, and Kiddo. Again, we talk about some teams not having enough firepower. This team definitely has enough, going up against Faded, Twy, Overhalo, Eyedrop, Sky and Scroll, and Floki, Clement, and Art Skill. I cannot tell you how this fight's going to go. It's going to be messy. It's going to be a nightmare. I don't think any of them are going to do well. Obviously, not entirely sure why any of these teams think this is a good idea. I guess a few of them are trying to claim the drop, and you got to throw away a few tournaments to eventually get it, I guess. Now, all I know is Veno, Vico, Flixie, and Thomas, Tris, and Panzer, the two drops next to it, are laughing. Two of the best teams in the region just can have a field day. Just go in, pick whichever kill you want, clean up, get all the loot, make it out. It's going to be very, very interesting to see how that plays out. But again, when there's that many desperate opponents, there's that many just bodies in the way, this could play a little bit upset into Veno, Vico, Flixie's strategy that normally they have a lot of space control around this area. I could see them sitting back and just getting tags and not fully engaging, but they're an aggressive team. They love their free kills. I think they're going to try to take advantage of this. They do have to be careful, though. They've got Kylie, Khan, and Turtle, but Teeny, Misha, and Skivvy to their south. Again, we know how insane Teeny can play, especially alongside Misha. They pull off some crazy strats. They're going to be looking to try to take advantage of all the chaos in this new area of the map, which I'm so excited to watch. Malibuca, Wox, and Ping just outside that. They were uncontested Mars Meadows. They are the other team that has the land spots. They can pretty much take whatever drop they want. They chose Lone Wolf Lairs where they're going to do it from. I'm super excited. I think they will be a favorite to win this Cash Cup, if not Veno, Vico, Flixie. The other favorites for me, we have Queasy, Swizzy, and Mustache. Finally, uncontested at Seaport City. There's no Frenchmen in sight. They are very, very happy right now. They get their drop spot. Speaking of uncontested by the Frenchies, Kami Seti Hari are brutal boxcars. They've decided to switch drops entirely. Not the best drop, especially without the Mythic AR, but they get it to themselves. It's center map. It's going to play a lot into Kami Seti and Hari's strength of placement. We'll see how they play out. The other favorite team that I have is Pix, Damus, and Damit. They're not really, I don't want to say they're underrated anymore because there's a lot of people focusing on this team. They are extremely dominant, but I would say to pick them as a potential favorite to win the Cash Cup would be an underrated pick, but they've been looking so good. The Eval Cup, they went into finals, every game stacked. They had their surge. They played very, very well, and we know they have the fighting potential. We have Vanya, Marius, and Pixie out of uncontested Flooded Frogs. The fact this team almost didn't even make it to grand finals, had to win the last game of Last Chance to then come third and now be absolutely dominating to kick off this season. I'm very excited to see what they can do. We have some other spicy spawn fights to watch. We do have Akira up against Mumsy, so now the Frenchies are actually contesting each other now. We have Jules up against Axe Force over at the Whiffy Wharf. We then have Battercry versus Wheat down at the Hopeful Heights, and then we have Dre versus Focus for the Mountain. Now, Focus, Fashroki, and Zhu, I think, are a phenomenal team. I think they can do really well. Being contested for this Mountain is going to be a bit of a nightmare. I don't think they're going to do particularly well. A team I'm very excited to see is Pink, Nebs, and Sato. Pink, Nebs, and Chino were looking very good. Pink was loving playing with Chino. Unfortunately, dropped him. Now picked up Sato, but I think Pink, Nebs, and Sato could have a big performance here. They are just playing as a fill, I'm guessing, because we're waiting for Kiro to get Div 1. I'm not sure exactly what happened there. I guess maybe they didn't want to try and play with him to get him Div 1, but they still wanted to play in the tournament and make money. They qualified with Sato. I guess he's just a placeholder, but it'd be cool to see how they perform. We have Mixon at Shining Span, uncontested, Fishy over at the Fields, and then Yanis, Rezon, and Noah Riley. I have no idea how this trio is even working. They had so much beef last season. Apparently, Rezon said, look, I'm not throwing away a 6-year friendship over one bad season of Fortnite. All is forgiven. We're locking in. We're playing together. I guess we'll see how that plays out. And then the other favorite for me, Trulex, Chicho, and Taste in a Kappa Factory, uncontested. You've got to give them a lot of hype right now. They didn't perform quite as well in Grands. They brought it back in day 2, which I think was awesome, but we'll see if they can pull it off in finals. Hopefully the lobbies aren't as laggy as what Taysom was saying during last Grand Finals, and I think we genuinely have 2 phenomenal finals on our hands. Both these are going to be very exciting. I am missing 2 big names. Mr. Savage and Mongrel both did not qualify to the finals. A lot of people ask me, do I think Savage is going to split? They looked a bit rough on day 1. They showed a lot of light on day 2. They really did come out swinging on day 2. They went pump power. When they make it off spawn with good loot, they're a phenomenal team. Their vibes are up. They just didn't have a drop spot. They started trying to pick random drops around the map. They tried to go Whiffy Wharf. They then tried flying in the air to see which spots were uncontested to go on like a northeast split. They ended up getting keyed. They weren't confident with their drops. They didn't have a spot, and that was what was really holding them back. So I could see them sticking together as long as they actually get a drop spot and start practicing it. Now, Mongrel, Casper, and Prism, they didn't have the most amount of points, but on day 2, they got a win and a top 3, showing that, again, they have the potential when they make it. I think Prism and Casper know that Mongrel literally just came back from a vacation. He could not be rustier on the season. He has now just, taken a bit of a break again to do the Sidemen charity match stuff, so we'll see. Hopefully they stay locked in. That trio has great vibes, and I do think they're Mongrel's best chance at doing well this season, but I could understand why they might want to play with someone else after the first performance. We had our first solo cash cup of the season as well, and it went about as expected. The pros were incredibly frustrated with the no mobility and the very strong ARs. It cost a few big teams from qualifying. Over on EU, we missed Queasy, Vico, Mr. Savage. If you watch Mr. Savage's stream, you kind of experienced how it went, but a lot of players did pop off and dominate with it. Despite all of the drama with the secure boot and the TMP, I will say it seems to have made cheating much better. I saw almost no cheaters the entire time, but first place on EU has 7 events played, so we'll see how that goes. So I think technically the winner on EU is Cammy. I could be wrong. Maybe the guy's just underrated GOAT. You be the judge. But Cammy came in first. Khan came in second. Snazy came in third. And then over on NA, we had an extremely dominant performance from Iomzo. 430 points, getting 3 wins, 20 kill win, 11 kill win, and a 21 kill win. We had Ishu and Taki come second and third. That is a trio, by the way. So very, very dominant showing from them coming into trios. And then we had Ages and Oliver OG to round out the top 5. Muzz, obviously, never far behind in solos. I will point out Ages and Ritual both finishing in the top 8 here as well. So Ritual proving he's not just an IGL, he can hang with the best in solos as well. If you want my thoughts on like what's the best assault rifle, what meds should I be carrying, how should I be rotating, I'm actually be uploading a bunch of React content on my React channel this week, because we managed to have a Acorn 30 bomb again. Acorn, the IGL, dominating, dropped a 30 bomb. We also had Poyo dropping a 30 bomb, and we had Flixie dropping a 30 bomb. I think Flixie has the record across 2 regions now with a 36 or 37 kill win. So those will be going up on my React channel, where I'll go more in depth with my thoughts on solos and how it's playing out right now.